Hello everybody, what is going on? We're back at it again here with the GPD WinMax 2. This is the 2023 model, and this should be the last video we are going to do on this device, at least for a while. And the kind of questions I've got from some viewers, from you guys, is a few minor things, but specifically in this video we're going to go over the built-in keyboard, or excuse me, the built-in controller, what it's like to really use that, how it compares to using a real controller. Spoiler alert, use a real controller. The second thing is, can you actually use the keyboard effectively? Like if you sit down and try to, punch out, something competitive or something even casual like a FPS, are you going to be able to do okay, with this kind of more cramped keyboard? And then a similar question on top of that, can you game competitively on this? Like if you play Overwatch competitively, play Valorant, CSGO 2, whatever your cup of tea is, are you going to have a good time with this device playing those games competitively, or are you just better off on your laptop, your PC at home, or even on your console? There are a couple other small questions that we'll get into, but those are the bulk of what we're going to be talking about in this video, so it should be a pretty quick one compared to the previous videos. So without further ado, let's get right into those. Alright, first one we're in here is Overwatch 2. That is my kind of competitive game of choice. So first we'll just try to pop into something quick in quick play, and we'll test out the keyboard. Alright, looks like we found a game. We are a tank. Let's try Orisa out here. Looks like we're kind of towards the end of the match here. I do have an external mouse that I am using, 2.4 gigahertz. Let's get into a fight here and see how we do. Oh boy, it's just me. Now, as we get into the discussion also around the built-in controller, I might not be able to show it here, but there is something I want to discuss. It's pretty simple. There's a toggle, right, to enable the built-in controller. And you want to make sure that that is turned off when you're using anything PC related, like you're using the actual keyboard and mouse, etc. Because it will actually screw your controls up. It'll make your controls really like imprecise and blocky, as if you're using a controller even when you're using a mouse. There we go, I finally did something useful. But keyboard wise, I'm having no issue here. I would say I'm having more issues with the mouse than I am with the keyboard. I don't know if that's just because I'm not using a mouse pad, or because of some settings I haven't messed with on this device. But the keyboard wise, as long as you're playing casually, I would say you're going to have no issue here with the keyboard, the built-in keyboard. Now, if you're going to go longer gaming session on this bad boy, I don't know how well you can see it kind of down here in this region. Once I die here, I'll angle it for you. I kind of have my arm around the device here, and it makes it easier when you are using an external mouse, right? But I can see how using this for a long period of time could kind of cramp your wrist up in this angle, and that's not something we want to do. So you want to make sure you kind of have a wide angle. Thankfully, the keys are close together, right? So you're able to kind of come at it from any angle and still be able to hit all the keys you need to reach pretty easily. So that does make it nicer. Though it is a small boxy device, you can kind of come at an angle and still be able to get WASD, shift, spacebar, your numpad, all that fun stuff. So keyboard wise, if you're not going in competitive, I would say you're doing just fine. I would say even for competitive, if you're only playing a few matches, you should be golden. All right, now we'll see if we can actually queue into a competitive match. It's pretty hit or miss. Sometimes you're waiting like 8 to 10 minutes, which is insane. But we'll see if we can get into one here. We'll skip the waiting time, and we'll let you know how it is from that point. All right, here we are starting. We're at 60 FPS here, I believe, settings-wise on the device. If you're interested, we are only at 15 watts, and I think we're at all medium settings. I think we're at the full resolution, 1600, 2560 by 1600. I think we are at the full resolution though. So let's see if I can do anything even remotely useful. I would say that already, definitely the biggest struggle is just seeing what I'm shooting at from this distance. Oh, hello. I feel like all my inputs, keyboard-wise, are being read properly. The mouse does feel a little funny. But for now, I'll chalk that up to just not being used to this particular mouse or this particular setup. And I am fat fingering the reload button because the keys are so close together. We'll play out a couple more minutes of this, or until it looks like we're clearly going to lose. Just get some data here, see how it feels. Gotta get my bearings. Oof. I would say accuracy normally you're between like 55 and 60 on average. Maybe if you have a real good game, you're like 65 to 68. But yeah, I'm definitely below average in terms of accuracy right now. And I would definitely chalk part of that up to just not being used to the mouse and the DPI settings, but I would also chalk some of it up to like it's a little difficult to see what I'm shooting at. Now, the monitor I have behind here is a 240 hertz, and I'm usually gaming on that, so I'm also used to a higher refresh rate. But that doesn't really matter so much. I would almost say... Oh man. I would almost say it feels like there's some kind of input delay, actually. And I wouldn't think that would be being caused by the mouse itself here, when it's plugged directly into the device via dongle and it's going 2.4 gigahertz. So those are my observations thus far. It feels like there's a little bit of input delay. Sorry, I can't speak. We're definitely not performing well. But our system is performing well at 15 watts here. Our CPU temp is 59, GPU 58. Pretty much maintaining that high 50s to 60 FPS. I'm sorry to my teammates. I'm really shitting the bed, but you know, it's for science. Yeah, like when I'm aiming down here, like soldier, like I can barely see where he is. I see maybe like the 15 pixels where he's at. Oh, I didn't die, so that's a... Yeah, ooh, it's just tough. Ooh, maybe let's go high. No, high sensitivity is not going to be any better. I can show you though. So here's the switch for the controller. It's currently off. Let's turn that on. I don't know if it'll affect it while I'm already in a game. I don't know if you can kind of see it, but it makes you aim more like boxy, like it's curving around like certain parameters as if it's like a controller. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it definitely does that. Oh boy, I'm not having a good time. I will blame it on this device. I swear I'm good at Overwatch. I'll probably say that for every single game I have to test here, but we'll tough it out here because it looks like the game's almost over. Thanks to me mostly. I think I have one kill. Sorry, boys. Now, if you were to do this exact same setup and plug it into an external monitor, I'm wondering if that would like really fix the main issues I'm having with it, or if it's just something else, like the latency from the mouse to the device, or... Man, I cannot hit anybody. Maybe if I just move my head way closer. Yeah, I like can't even hit shots close range. It definitely feels like we're playing at like, I don't know, like 100+ millisecond response time between when we move and when it happens on the screen. But we're not getting any pop-ups in the game showing that our connection is bad. So I'm not sure if it's the device, if it's the mouse. I don't think it's the mouse because I've used this mouse many times before. But yeah, I cannot aim accurately. But yeah, see when I move the controls here. I'm going in a circular motion, but you see how it's like a box almost? It's moving in like a box pattern. It's like moving in almost straight lines on each side. It's definitely not a perfect circle. Like I'm moving it perfectly in a circle. You can see my finger there, and it's really boxy. So you can tell like the quality of the sticks here, not good. Like you will not. I would even say even if you're playing casually, bad experience using these sticks for any kind of FPS, especially multiplayer. Maybe if you're playing something like Doom Eternal or just playing an old FPS or something like that, you'll get by. But ooh, it is not nice otherwise. And until it switches, if you forget to switch that off, your mouse will act the exact same way, which is crazy. But I have played better on this device at these exact settings before, so I'm going to chalk it up a little bit to the mouse, to maybe user error. Oh, what? Come on, I almost got one kill. You can't take that from me. All right, in case we... Okay, we didn't win. Sorry everyone. Apologies, my boys. But that's the kind of experience you're going to be getting on this device. Keyboard, good, fine, no problem, no issues. Mouse, you might have to finagle with a little bit, make sure the switch is off. Do not use the built-in controller. Just don't use it. Yeah, I can't wait to see my stats. Like 1 in 12. But yeah, that's what that kind of competitive experience is going to be like. It's probably not going to be great. You'll be able to compete if you get the issue figured out with the mouse. Again, I'm not sure if it's actually the mouse because I have played on this before and didn't have an issue with this exact mouse. But my face was also much closer to the screen. Like I had it up in my face as if I was holding it like a handheld. I didn't do well in that match either, but I did much better. So that's what you can expect competitively using this device. And that's what you can really expect, especially if you're using that external keyboard. Like I got one here. I got the Newfie Air V2, and I've been using that a little bit, just putting it out in front of the device here like this. Makes it a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more reach, right? But again, that puts you further away from the screen and makes it more difficult. On a 10-inch screen, when you're not right up next to it, or when you're not just consuming content, like watching something where you don't have to pay attention to every little area of the screen, it's fine. But getting further away from it and having to hit things competitively, a bit difficult. So let's move on to the last part here. And the last questions I really had were about key bindings. Someone asked about key bindings on the device specifically. I don't think there's any software you're going to use, whether it's SteelSeries, whether it's Glorious Gaming PC, whatever it is, that are going to affect on this keyboard, like the actual device's keyboard. But you plug an external one in, any of that software will work just fine. But it does depend on the software. I'm sure there might be some where you can make some unique key bindings on there. I normally use the Glorious Gaming brand, and in their software, like the keyboard has to be connected for it to even show up for anything to be editable. So on that front and those type of software where you have to like physically have the keyboard connected to see it and to make alterations to key bindings, that's not going to work for just the device. But you plug in an external keyboard, get your first party or third party software depending on your brand of keyboard, and you'll be just fine key binding wise. I think they asked specifically about like Path of Exile and Diablo and those style games. I think games like that would play just fine on a device like this. Using an external keyboard, set up your key binds just fine. So if you're playing those kind of games, I would recommend an external keyboard, and I would say that you're going to be just fine. To wrap up my thoughts from this video and the previous videos, this is a cool device, but it's missing or lackluster in just enough areas that it's hard to recommend overall. If you just like your indies, like let's go through my library here. Let's just go through the the Steam store. If you're playing tactical stuff, like you got a bunch of Warhammer stuff, you like stuff like survival games, Grounded here. You like your single player game stuff like XCOM, Among Us, whatever you like. That kind of stuff gonna be just fine. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, no problem. You're gonna have a great time. Indie type games, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Blasphemous, Cult of the Lamb, whatever your cup of tea is in that arena, I think you're gonna have a perfectly good time. No issues whatsoever. And as long as you keep your expectations in check, even big single player games, stuff like Elden Ring, stuff like Red Dead Redemption, Hogwarts, all that kind of stuff, no problem. You're gonna be able to tweak it every way you need to make it playable and to make it enjoyable. Multiplayer stuff though, or even like Twitch based stuff, like really intensive platforming, I think would be okay. But yeah, multiplayer stuff, it's not gonna be a good time. I've tried several times, many different games, changing all sorts of settings. It definitely will require some tweaking. You might be able to get the game you like to a place where you find it tolerable, but when you're buying a device this expensive, you're not paying for tolerable, right? You're paying for an experience. You can turn the device on, download the game, play it, and enjoy it, right? So if you are mainly a first-person shooter or mainly a competitive player, I would not recommend this device. If gaming only is your sole purpose for getting this. But if you prefer more single player, more strategy, more indie, stuff like that, turn-based, things of that nature, you'll be just fine. Just be aware, shooters, going to be a little bit of a difficulty, especially multiplayer ones. The last thing, which I've talked about in all the previous videos, again, as this one as well, is the built-in controller is frankly unacceptable. It's not good. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've probably seen the reviews from other channels like Retro Game Corp, The Fox, all those, where they mention a little bit about the controller and say, well, it's this or that, but don't worry about it too much. Like, they mention it. They bring up that it has some issues, but they don't really focus on it, which is weird because this is a handheld. This is why you buy the device, is these things here, the built-in controller. Otherwise, it is just a mini laptop. Now, they have updated the Win 4, the smaller device, the more like PS Vita style device recently, to fix some of those stick issues. Now, I don't know if that fixed the kind of boxy nature of like the movement of the actual analog stick itself, but they did update it, and they have promised an update is coming for the WinMax 2. That's been coming for about a year, so if you buy this device, don't expect it, but it probably will come eventually. I can't guarantee, though, that it will fix that issue. So, again, as you saw, a shooter or anything like that is not going to be good just on these sticks. It's just not. After using it for almost 2 months now, I'm probably going to be selling it or after this video and going for something else. The poll I recently did with you guys, you guys said that you wanted me to look at the Steam Deck OLED next over the other devices, so I will probably be selling this, getting the Steam Deck OLED, and doing all kinds of fun stuff and new videos with that device, as well as some other things in between. So please look forward to that stuff and give me any other kind of critiques or things you want to see, maybe about this device, about the Steam Deck OLED, or any other future devices or even games, whatever else you got going on that you want to ask about. Until then, we'll see you guys all next time. Have a great one.